"Will I look you again?" I asked. She turned, laughing, and gave me a letter, leaving me frozen. Stars looked different from inside the Perseverance. Commander Elena Vasquez had seen them through ship windows 1,000 times, but today they seemed brighter, more alive. Today marked the end of humanity's first successful contact with an alien species. Marcus Chen stood at the observation deck, watching the sleek Zephyrian ship prepare for departure. Its silver hull gleamed like liquid mercury under the artificial lights of the docking bay. After 3 months of careful negotiations, cultural exchanges, and countless hours of translation work, Ambassador Kirith was finally going home. "She's really leaving," whispered Dr. Sarah Kim, the mission's chief anthropologist. She stood beside Marcus, her tablet filled with notes about Zephyrian customs and behaviors. "I still can't believe we actually did it. First contact, and nobody died." Marcus nodded, but his eyes stayed fixed on the alien vessel. Somewhere inside that ship, Kirith was preparing for her journey back to the Zephyr system. 47 light years away. The thought made his chest feel tight. The past 3 months had changed everything Marcus thought he knew about communication. Learning the Zephyrian language had been like discovering music for the first time. Their words flowed like water, each syllable carrying multiple meanings that shifted based on tone and context. Kirith had been patient with his mistakes, laughing when he accidentally asked for flying soup instead of weather reports. Her laugh was the thing he would miss most. It sounded like wind chimes made of crystal, light and musical in a way that made humans smile without knowing why. Even the ship's security chief, a man who never smiled, had grinned whenever Kirith found something funny. "Marcus," Elena's voice came through the communication system. "She's requesting to see you before final departure. Docking Bay 7. His heart jumped. Sarah gave him an encouraging push toward the corridor. "Go. Don't keep her waiting." The walk to Docking Bay 7 felt both too long and too short. Marcus rehearsed what he wanted to say, switching between English and Zephyrian phrases. How do you say goodbye to someone from another world? How do you express gratitude for changing your entire understanding of the universe? The docking bay was quiet except for the soft hum of life support systems. Kirith stood near the airlock to her ship, her tall, graceful form silhouetted against the bright lights of the corridor beyond. She wore the traditional departure robes of her people-flowing fabric that seemed to capture and reflect light like water. Her face was almost human, with the same basic features but elongated and refined. Her skin had a slight blue tint, and her eyes were larger than human eyes, colored like deep ocean water. When she saw Marcus, those eyes crinkled at the corners in what he had learned was the Zephyrian equivalent of a smile. "Marcus Chen," she said, his name rolling off her tongue with the musical quality of her language. "I hoped you would come. I couldn't let you leave without saying goodbye." Marcus replied in Zephyrian, proud that he managed the complex tonal shifts correctly. Kirith's laugh filled the space between them. "Your pronunciation has improved greatly. Your teachers would be proud." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Marcus wanted to say so many things. He wanted to thank her for her patience, for sharing her world's knowledge, for treating humanity as equals despite their technological differences. He wanted to tell her how the experience had changed him, how learning her language had opened new pathways in his mind. Instead, he asked the question that had been bothering him for days. "Will I see you again?" The words came out in English, his emotions making it hard to manage the complex Zephyrian grammar. Kirith understood anyway. Her expression became thoughtful, almost sad. She reached into the folds of her robe and pulled out a small, sealed envelope. The paper was unlike anything Marcus had seen, thin as silk, but with a strange shimmer that suggested it was made from materials not found on Earth. Elegant Zephyrian script covered the front in silver ink that seemed to move in the light. "Not soon," she said quietly, pressing the envelope into his hands. "But perhaps someday, if your species proves itself ready." "Ready for what?" Marcus asked. But Kirith was already turning toward her ship's airlock. She paused at the threshold and looked back at him. Her laugh came again, but this time it sounded different, knowing, mysterious, with an edge of something that might have been worry. Read the letter when you are ready to understand, she said. Your species has great potential. Marcus Chen, greater than you know. But potential alone is not enough. The airlock sealed behind her with a soft hiss. Marcus stood holding the envelope, feeling its strange weight in his hands. Through the observation window, he watched the Zephyrian ship detach from the Perseverance and drift away into the star field. The envelope felt warm against his palms, as if the paper itself was alive. Marcus turned it over carefully, noting the way the script seemed to shimmer and shift. He had become good at reading Zephyrian text, but these symbols were different, older, more formal, written in a style he had never encountered. Marcus? Elena's voice came through his communicator. Is everything okay? The Zephyrian ship just jumped to hyperspace. He looked up at the observation window. The alien vessel was gone, leaving only stars and empty space. But the envelope in his hands proved it had all been real. I'm fine, he said, though he wasn't sure that was true. Just saying goodbye. Back in his quarters, Marcus sat at his desk and stared at the envelope. Part of him wanted to tear it open immediately to discover whatever secret Kirith had left him. But her words echoed in his mind. Read the letter when you are ready to understand. What did that mean? Ready to understand what? He placed the envelope in his desk drawer, next to his notes on Zephyrian grammar and cultural practices. Tomorrow, the Perseverance would begin its journey back to Earth, carrying news of successful first contact and hopes for future cooperation between species. But tonight, Marcus Chen sat in his room and wondered what Kirith had meant about humanity's potential and what they might need to prove themselves ready for. The stars outside his window looked the same as always, but somehow the universe felt bigger now, full of possibilities and questions he had never thought to ask. The envelope waited in his drawer, holding secrets that would soon change everything humanity thought they knew about their place among the stars. 3 months had passed since the Perseverance returned to Earth. Marcus Chen sat in his office at the Global Communications Center in Geneva, staring at the Zephyrian letter he still hadn't opened. The strange paper seemed to glow in the afternoon, sunlight streaming through his window. His work translating Kirith's cultural exchanges had made him famous. Universities wanted him to speak. Governments asked for his advice on preparing for future alien contact. But Marcus found himself thinking more about Kirith's final words than his newfound success. Your species has great potential. But potential alone is not enough. What had she meant? Ready for what? Dr. Elena Vasquez knocked on his door frame. Marcus, we need you in the monitoring room. Something's happening. The tone in her voice made Marcus quickly slide the letter into his desk drawer. Elena's face was pale, her usual calm confidence replaced by worry. They walked quickly down the corridor toward the Deep Space Monitoring Center. The monitoring room buzzed with activity. Technicians sat at rows of computers, their screens filled with data streams and sensor readings. Director James Walsh stood at the central display, his arms crossed as he studied the massive holographic projection showing the outer solar system. What are we looking at? Marcus asked. Objects, Walsh said simply. Big ones. They appeared at the edge of the system 6 hours ago, moving toward us. The hologram showed 12 massive shapes decelerating from incredible speeds. Each object was enormous, easily 10 times larger than Earth's biggest space stations. They moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls reflecting no light. Any communication attempts? Elena asked. We've tried everything, said Lieutenant Sarah Torres, the communications officer. Radio, laser. Even the Zephyrian greeting protocols Marcus taught us. Nothing. They're completely silent. Marcus studied the approaching ships. Something about their design felt wrong. Alien in a way that was different from Kirith's graceful vessel. These ships looked functional. Industrial, like machines built for a single purpose. How long until they reach us? He asked. At current speed, 18 hours, Torres replied. But they're still slowing down. Could be longer. Walsh turned to face the room. I want constant monitoring. Any change in their trajectory, any energy signatures, anything at all. I want to know immediately, and keep trying those communication protocols over the next 6 hours. The objects continued their steady approach. They maintained perfect formation, making no attempts to communicate or respond to Earth's increasingly desperate messages. Military satellites repositioned themselves for better observation angles. Space stations prepared for possible evacuation. Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he had seen something like this before. The ship's movements were too precise, too coordinated. They reminded him of something from his studies, but he couldn't place what. At midnight, the first attack began. It started with the communication satellites. One by one, they simply stopped transmitting. No explosions, no visible weapons fire. They just went dark. Within an hour, Earth had lost contact with most of its orbital infrastructure. The International Space Station is requesting emergency evacuation, Torres reported, her voice tight with stress. They're reporting strange energy readings right before satellites go offline. Send the shuttles, Walsh ordered. Get our people down here. But it was too late. The ISS's signal vanished mid-transmission, joining the growing list of silent installations. Marcus watched the tactical display as red marks appeared across it, each one representing a piece of human technology that had suddenly stopped working. The pattern was methodical, systematic. These attackers weren't interested in negotiation or demands. They were simply removing humanity's ability to see what was happening in space. They're blinding us, Elena whispered, standing beside Marcus. Taking out our eyes and ears first. It's what you do before an invasion, Walsh said grimly. Cut communications, eliminate surveillance, isolate the target. By dawn, Earth had lost contact with everything beyond low orbit. The attacking ships had moved closer but remained invisible to ground-based telescopes. Only the military's most advanced radar systems could track their positions. And even those readings were fuzzy and inconsistent. Marcus sat in his office, the events of the night weighing heavily on his mind. The Zephyrian letter lay on his desk where he had placed it hours earlier. Kirith's warning echoed in his thoughts. If your species proves itself ready. Ready for what? Ready for this? He picked up the letter with trembling hands and carefully opened the strange seal. The paper inside was covered with Zephyrian script, but not the everyday language he had learned. This was formal, ancient-looking, like the writing in old temples or sacred texts. As Marcus began to translate, his blood grew cold. To the humans of Earth, the letter began. If you are reading this, then the harvesters have found you. We are sorry. We hoped your world would remain hidden longer. Marcus's hand shook as he continued reading. The beings now approaching your planet are not like us. They are not alive in any way you would understand. They are machines, ancient and terrible, that travel between stars consuming civilizations. They take everything technology, resources, knowledge and leave nothing behind. The letter went on to explain how the harvesters had destroyed thousands of species across the galaxy, how they appeared without warning, eliminated all resistance, and stripped entire worlds bare before moving on to the next target. Most civilizations fall within days, Kirith had written. Their technology is beyond anything you have encountered, but do not despair. Survival is possible, though the cost is always high. The letter included coordinates to a distant star system and a final message. If your species survives the initial attack, if you prove you can adapt and fight, then find us at these coordinates. The galaxy has been watching your world, waiting to see if humanity possesses the strength to stand against the darkness. Many species have tried, few have succeeded. Marcus dropped the letter and ran to the monitoring room. The tactical display now showed the alien ships had entered Earth's orbital space. Ground-based installations were starting to report power failures and equipment malfunctions. Elena, Marcus called out, I know what these things are, and I know why they're here. She turned from the communication station, her face grim. The first reports are coming in from major cities. Power grids failing, military bases going dark. Whatever they're doing, it's working. Marcus held up the translated letter. They're called harvesters, and according to this, they've destroyed thousands of civilizations just like ours. Walsh read over Marcus's shoulder, his expression growing darker with each line. Ancient machines that consume civilizations, he muttered. How do we fight something like that? The same way humans always fight, Elena said, looking at the chaos around them. We adapt. We learn. We refuse to give up. Outside, the first harvester ships descended. Through Earth's atmosphere, their dark holes blocking out the stars. The invasion had begun, and humanity was about to face its greatest test. But in the monitoring room, surrounded by failing equipment and desperate voices, Marcus felt something unexpected. Hope. Kirith had believed humanity could survive this. She had given them warning, preparation, a chance. Now they had to prove her faith in them was not misplaced. 6 weeks after the first harvester ships entered Earth's atmosphere, Captain Sarah Torres crouched behind the twisted remains of what used to be a communications tower. Her fleet was hidden in the asteroid field near Mars 15 ships that had once been mining vessels, cargo haulers, and research platforms. Now they were humanity's last hope. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, whispered Lieutenant Chenwei over the radio. He wasn't related to Marcus, but he had volunteered for the mission after his home city of Shanghai went dark. Single harvester scout, moving toward the mining station. Sarah peered through her scope at the enemy vessel. It looked like a massive black triangle, its surface absorbing light instead of reflecting it. No windows, no visible engines, just smooth metal that seemed to bend space around it. Remember the plan, she said into her headset. We're not trying to win. We're trying to learn. The past month had been a nightmare for Earth. The harvesters had taken every major city, every military base, every center of human civilization. But they hadn't expected humans to scatter, hide, and keep fighting from places no sane military would use as bases. Sarah's makeshift fleet was proof of human stubbornness. When the military bases fell, she had gathered survivors at an abandoned mining operation. When that became too dangerous, they moved to derelict space stations. When those were discovered, they hid among the asteroids like space pirates. Torres, this is Marcus, came a familiar voice over the secured channel. Marcus Chen was back on Earth, working with the underground resistance. But he had helped plan this mission. Remember what we learned from the wreckage. They're sensors. Expect organized military formations. Stay chaotic. That was the key discovery that had kept them alive this long. The harvesters fought like machines because they were machines. They predicted human behavior based on military tactics, standard formations, logical strategies. But humans weren't being logical anymore. They were being desperate. All ships. Execute pattern chaos, Sarah ordered. Her fleet broke apart in 12 different directions, each ship following a random path that no computer could predict. The mining ship Lucky Strike dove toward Mars' surface. The research vessel Deep Thought spiraled upward toward the sun. The cargo hauler Big Money simply stopped dead in space and played dead. The harvester scout ship paused, its sensors scanning. Frantically, Sarah could almost feel its confusion as it tried to decide which target to pursue first now. She whispered. The Lucky Strike fired its mining laser not at the harvester ship, but at a nearby asteroid. The explosion sent thousands of rock fragments flying in all directions. The research ship released its entire supply of atmosphere, creating a cloud of gases that interfered with sensors. The cargo hauler suddenly roared to life and rammed straight into the scout ship's side. The harvester ship staggered but didn't explode. Its hull was too strong for such simple attacks. But for the first time in 6 weeks, a human ship had actually hit one of them. Target is damaged, reported Chenwei from the Deep Thought. Hull breach on the port side. It's leaking some kind of fluid. All ships, collect samples, Sarah ordered. Anything that comes off that ship. We want it. The scout vessel tried to retreat, but Sarah's ship swarmed around it like angry bees. They couldn't destroy it, but they could annoy it, confuse it, and steal pieces of its technology. The harvester seemed unable to cope with such chaotic, unpredictable behavior. After 20 minutes of harassment, the scout ship finally managed to escape. But humanity had won something more valuable than a military victory. They had won knowledge. Back on Earth, Dr. Elena Vasquez studied the samples in an underground laboratory hidden beneath the ruins of Geneva. The fluid from the harvester ship was unlike anything in human science, a liquid metal that seemed to carry information. like a computer network. It's how they communicate, she explained to Marcus and Director Walsh over a secure video link. Each ship is connected to every other ship through this metallic fluid. They share information instantly across their entire fleet. Marcus leaned forward. That explains why they fight so perfectly together. They're not individual ships, they're parts of one giant mind. But it's also a weakness. Elena continued. If we could disrupt that communication somehow, they'd lose coordination. Walsh finished. They become individual ships instead of a unified force. On the screen, Elena nodded. Exactly. And individual ships make mistakes. They can be confused, misdirected, even defeated if we're clever enough. The discovery changed everything. Within days, human resistance cells around the world began developing new tactics based on disrupting Harvester communications. They built jammers from salvaged electronics. They learned to create electromagnetic pulses using modified car batteries. They even discovered that certain radio frequencies could interfere. With the liquid metal network, Sarah's asteroid fleet became the testing ground for these new weapons. Each mission taught them something new about how the Harvesters operated, how they communicated, how they could be confused. Contact at bearing 44 Mark 7. Chen Wei reported during their latest mission. 3 Harvester ships, moving in formation. Perfect, Sarah grinned. This time, they were ready. The human ships scattered as before, but now each carried a different experimental weapon. The Lucky Strike broadcast a jamming signal that Marcus had designed based on Zephyrian communication theories. The Deep Thought released a cloud of metallic particles that interfered with the liquid metal network. The big money simply flew in the most unpredictable pattern its pilot could imagine. The effect was immediate. The 3 Harvester ships broke formation, each one turning in a different direction as their shared intelligence network failed. For the first time since the invasion began, they looked confused, vulnerable. All ships. Attack pattern random, Sarah ordered. What followed couldn't be called a battle in any traditional sense. It was more like a pack of wolves attacking a confused bear. The human ships darted in and out, striking with mining lasers, ramming with cargo holds, and generally making themselves as annoying as possible. One Harvester ship actually collided with another when their pilots couldn't coordinate properly. The 3rd ship tried to retreat but flew straight into an asteroid because its navigation system was being jammed. We did it, Chen Wei whispered over the radio. We actually beat them. Not beat, Sarah corrected, watching the damaged Harvester ships limp away. But we confused them. We made them make mistakes. And if we can do that, we can win. Marcus's voice came over the channel from Earth, not through superior technology or military might, but by being unpredictable, chaotic, and too stubborn to give up. Unknown to the humans, their small victories were being watched. Hidden observation posts throughout the solar system recorded every battle, every innovative tactic, every moment of human adaptability. Other species had tried to fight the Harvesters with traditional military strategies and failed. But humanity was trying something different. They were fighting like humans, creative, stubborn, and completely unwilling to follow the rules of warfare that the Harvesters expected. In a distant star system, Ambassador Kirith watched the recordings with growing amazement. No species had lasted this long against the Harvesters. Most fell within days. Their organized militaries crushed by superior technology. But humans weren't fighting like a military. They were fighting like survivors, like individuals who refused to be conquered. No matter how impossible the odds seemed, perhaps, she said quietly to her council, it is time to help them understand they are not alone. Marcus Chen stared at the ceiling of his underground bunker, unable to sleep. For months had passed since the Harvester invasion began, and humanity was still fighting. It was a miracle that surprised everyone, including the humans themselves. The resistance had grown beyond anyone's expectations. Small groups of survivors operated from hidden bases around the world, using tactics that would have been considered crazy before the war. They lived in subway tunnels, abandoned mines, and underwater research stations. They fought with modified farming equipment, converted civilian vehicles, and weapons built from scrap metal. But Marcus knew they were running out of time. The harvesters were learning too, adapting their strategies to counter human unpredictability. Each week, more resistance. Cells went silent. Each month, fewer supply drops made it through enemy lines. He pulled out Kirith's letter and read it again by flashlight. The coordinates she had given were burned into his memory now, but he still couldn't understand what they meant. The location was empty space, far from any known star system. A soft knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Dr. Elena Vasquez entered, carrying a tablet and looking excited despite the exhaustion in her eyes. "Marcus, you need to see this," she said, sitting on the edge of his cot. "We've been monitoring those coordinates from Kirith's letter. Something just appeared there." Marcus sat up quickly. "What kind of something?" Elena activated her tablet, showing him a series of sensor readings. "A ship, not Harvester design, not human either. It's been broadcasting a signal in Zephyrian language." Marcus's heart raced as he read the translation Elena had prepared. The message was simple but amazing. "Humanity of Earth, you have surprised us all. We offer assistance to those who refuse to surrender. There are more of them," Marcus whispered. Kirith wasn't alone. Over the next few days, the truth began to unfold. The mysterious ship was joined by other vessels from different species, all broadcasting messages of support. They had been watching humanity's fight against the Harvesters, and they were impressed by what they saw. Dr. James Walsh, now commanding the resistance from a bunker in Australia, coordinated the first communication with the alien coalition. The conversation took place over encrypted channels, with Marcus serving as the primary translator. "We are the Hidden Alliance," explained Captain Vorth, speaking for a species called the Krell. His words came through universal translators provided by the aliens. "For 3,000 years, we have survived by hiding from the Harvesters. When they came to our worlds, we went dark. We made them think we were extinct." "How many species?" Marcus asked. 47 civilizations, replied another voice. This one belonging to a being called Commander Zix from the Helix Confederation. "We have watched the Harvesters destroy hundreds of other species. We learned that direct confrontation meant death." Marcus felt a chill. "Then why are you contacting us now?" "Because you are different," came a familiar voice. Ambassador Kirith had joined the conversation. "No species has ever fought the Harvesters for months. Most fall in less than a week. You have done something we thought impossible." The aliens explained how they had been monitoring Earth since the first Harvester ships arrived. They had expected humanity to be conquered quickly, like all the others. Instead, they watched in amazement as humans scattered, adapted, and kept fighting using tactics no computer could predict. "Your military thinking is chaos," Vorth admitted, "but it is effective chaos. The Harvesters cannot process your strategies. Because you have no strategies, you simply refuse to be defeated." Elena leaned forward. "Are you willing to help us?" "We have been helping," Kirith said. "The supply drops you thought were meteor impacts, the technical data that appeared in your computer systems, the energy signatures that confused Harvester sensors. We have been providing assistance for weeks." Marcus realized the truth. The resistance hadn't survived on luck alone. The Hidden Alliance had been secretly supporting them, providing just enough help to keep humanity fighting without revealing their own existence. "But now we face a problem," Commander Zix continued. "The Harvesters are bringing reinforcements. A massive fleet that will arrive in 6 weeks, even with our help. Earth cannot survive that attack. Unless," Kirith added, "we take a different approach." She explained the plan that the Hidden Alliance had developed. Dr. Elizabeth Kane, a quantum physicist working with the underground resistance, had made a breakthrough. She had figured out how to build a device that could disrupt the quantum entanglement network connecting all Harvester ships. "The device must be placed at the center of their command ship," Kirith explained, "the one that coordinates their entire fleet. If we can disrupt their network completely, their ships will shut down across the galaxy." "That sounds too good to be true," Walsh said over the communication link. "It is dangerous." Vorth warned, "The command ship is heavily defended. It would be a suicide mission. and if the mission fails, the harvesters will learn of our existence. All 47 Hidden Alliance species would be hunted down and destroyed. Marcus felt the weight of the decision. Humanity had surprised everyone by surviving this long. But they couldn't win alone. The Hidden Alliance was offering to risk everything to help Earth, but only if humans could prove they were worth the sacrifice. "What makes you think we can succeed where others have failed?" Marcus asked. "Because you are unpredictable," Kirith replied. "The harvesters expect military precision. They prepare for coordinated attacks, logical strategies, predictable behavior. But humans do not fight logically. You fight with desperation, creativity, and complete disregard for impossible odds." Elena looked at Marcus. They both understood what was being offered. The aliens would provide technology, intelligence, and support. But humans would have to carry out the actual mission and probably die doing it. "We need volunteers," Walsh said finally. "Someone willing to fly into the heart of the enemy fleet and plant this device." "I'll do it," Marcus said without hesitation. "Marcus, no," Eleanor protested. "You're too valuable. We need you for communication with the aliens." "I'm the logical choice," Marcus replied. "I understand Zephyrian technology better than anyone else. I can work with their equipment." And he paused, thinking of Kirith's faith in humanity. Someone needs to show them that humans keep their promises. Over the next 2 weeks, the Hidden Alliance provided incredible support. Ships disguised as asteroids delivered advanced weapons. Technical specifications appeared in resistance computers worldwide. Energy shields that could hide human bases from harvester sensors materialized in supply drops. But the most important delivery was a small, sleek ship designed for stealth operations. It was built using technology from multiple species, specifically designed to penetrate harvester defenses and reach their command vessel. Dr. Kane worked day and night to perfect the quantum disruptor device. It was small enough to carry, but powerful enough to cascade through the entire harvester network if placed correctly. "Remember," she told Marcus as he prepared for the mission, "you only get one chance. The device needs to be placed in direct contact with their central processing core. Miss that target, and the whole plan fails." Marcus nodded, checking his equipment one final time. The stealth ship was loaded with everything he would need: weapons, tools, life support for a week, and the quantum disruptor that might save the galaxies from the harvester threat. "Will I see you again?" Elena asked, echoing the question he had once asked Kyrith. Marcus smiled, remembering Kirith's mysterious laugh. "If this works, you'll see all of us again, humans, Zephyrians, and 45 other species we haven't met yet." As he climbed into the alien ship, Marcus felt the weight of 2 civilizations on his shoulders. Humanity had proven they could survive and adapt. Now it was time to prove they could sacrifice for others, just as the Hidden Alliance was sacrificing. For them, the stars looked different through the ship's advanced viewports, brighter, more alive, full of possibilities he had never imagined. Soon, he would know if humanity's stubborn refusal to surrender would be enough to end the harvester threat forever. Marcus Chen guided his stealth ship through the darkness between stars, watching the massive harvester fleet grow larger on his screens. 3 days had passed since he left Earth's hidden moon base, and now he could see his target of command. Ship so enormous it looked like a floating city made of black metal. The quantum disruptor sat in the seat beside him, no bigger than a briefcase, but containing the hopes of 48 different species. Dr. Kane had explained the science behind it, but Marcus understood only the basics. Place it against the harvester's central computer, activate it, and pray that the cascade effect would shut down every harvester ship in the galaxy. Hidden Alliance vessels. "This is Marcus," he whispered into his communicator. "I can see the command ship. Beginning final approach. We see you, Marcus Chen." Came Kirith's voice over the channel. "Remember, you have 17 minutes once you're inside. After that, their security systems will adapt to your presence. 17 minutes to penetrate the most heavily defended ship in harvester space. Find the central computer and plant the device." Marcus had trained for this mission using simulations provided by the Hidden Alliance. But everyone knew the real ship would be different. His stealth vessel slipped past the outer defense grid, invisible to Harvester's sensors thanks to technology borrowed from 6 different alien species. The command ship's hull stretched out before him like a metal landscape covered with towers, weapon ports, and docking bays. Marcus found a maintenance port on the ship's underside and carefully connected his vessels. Airlock, the cutting torch, made short work of the outer hull, and within minutes he was floating through Harvester Carters in a borrowed alien spacesuit. The inside of the ship was like nothing he had ever seen. Carters stretched in impossible directions, defying human understanding of architecture. Strange lights pulsed along the walls, and the air hummed with energy from systems beyond human comprehension. 15 minutes remaining. Kirith's voice crackled through his suit radio. Marcus pushed forward, following the route he had memorized from the alien intelligence reports. The central computer should be at the ship's core, protected by layers of security and automated defenses. But as he moved deeper into the ship, Marcus began to understand something the Hidden Alliance hadn't expected. The Harvesters weren't just machines, they were learning machines, and they had been learning about humanity for months. The corridor ahead suddenly filled with defensive robots, but they weren't attacking. They were watching, studying, analyzing his movements. Marcus realized the Harvesters had been expecting him. Alliance fleet, this is Marcus. He said into his radio, "I think they know I'm here." "Impossible," came Commander Zix's voice. "Our stealth technology is perfect. Not against an enemy that's been studying human behavior for months," Marcus replied. He ducked around a corner as scanning beams swept. "The quarter, they've learned to predict our unpredictability." But even as he said it, Marcus smiled. The Harvesters had made one crucial mistake. They thought they understood humans completely. They expected him to run, hide, or try to fight his way through their defenses. Instead, Marcus did something no logical being would do. He walked directly toward the defensive robots. Hands raised in surrender. The machines paused, their sensors scanning him frantically. Their programming had no protocols for an enemy who willingly gave himself up. They had studied human military tactics, survival instincts, and combat behavior, but they hadn't studied human sacrifice. 12 minutes remaining, Kirith warned. Marcus kept walking, moving past the confused robots toward the central core. Behind him, alarms began to sound as the Harvester systems tried to process what they were seeing. The central computer chamber was a vast spherical room filled with flowing liquid metal, the same communication fluid Elena had analyzed months ago. At the center, a massive processing core pulsed with information from across the galaxy. Marcus approached the core, pulling out the quantum disruptor. But as he prepared to place it against the central processor, a voice filled the chamber. Human. The voice said, speaking in perfect English, "We have been watching your species. You interest us." "Interested enough to stop trying to destroy us?" Marcus asked, not pausing in his work. "Your species fights unlike any other we have encountered. You are chaotic, unpredictable, inefficient, yet you survive where others fall. We wish to understand." This Marcus placed the disruptor against the processing core and began the activation sequence. "Understanding and destroying aren't compatible goals. We do not wish to destroy humanity," the Harvester intelligence said. "We wish to preserve you. Your chaotic nature could improve our efficiency. We offer you a place in our collective." 9 minutes remaining. Came Kirith's voice. Marcus paused, his finger over the final activation button. The Harvesters were offering humanity survival, but at the cost of becoming part of their machine intelligence. No more freedom, no more chaos, no more humanity. "Counter-offer," Marcus said. "You leave us alone. We'll teach you why chaos sometimes works better than order. That is not acceptable. Order must be maintained." "Then you don't understand humans at all," Marcus replied, and pressed the activation button. The quantum disruptor began to pulse, sending waves of energy into the Harvester network. But instead of the instant shutdown everyone expected, the process was slow, cascading through millions of connected ships across the galaxy. "Marcus." Elena's voice crackled through his radio from Earth. "The device is working, but it's taking time. You need to get out of there. But Marcus couldn't move. The energy from the disruptor had created a feedback loop, trapping him in the central chamber as the harvester systems began to shut down around him. Through his radio, he could hear reports from across human space. Harvester ships were going dark, their crews disconnecting from the collective intelligence. Some ships were crashing, others simply stopping in place. The network is collapsing, reported Captain Torres from her asteroid fleet. They're not coordinating anymore. We can't actually fight them now. Marcus smiled as the chamber filled with energy discharges. The mission was succeeding, but he wouldn't live to see the victory. Alliance fleet. He said into his radio, "Tell them about us. Tell them how humans refuse to give up, how we protect each other, how we'd rather die free than live as slaves." Marcus. The evacuation ship is on its way. Kirith's voice was tight with emotion. Hold on. But the chamber was collapsing around him. Marcus closed his eyes and thought about Elena, about Earth, about all the species that would now be free from the harvester threat. The explosion should have killed him instantly. Instead, Marcus woke up 3 days later in a medical bay aboard a Zephyrian ship. His body was covered in bandages, but he was alive. The experimental shielding in your suit saved you, Elena explained, sitting beside his bed with tears in her eyes. Barely. But it was enough. Through the medical bay's window, Marcus could see dozens of ships from the Hidden Alliance. And beyond them, Earth scarred but whole, free from the harvester threat. The network collapse worked perfectly, Elena continued. Every harvester ship in the galaxy went offline. Some are being repaired by their crews, but they're individuals. Now, not a collective. Most of them are actually asking for help understanding what happened to them. Kirith entered the medical bay, carrying a familiar-looking envelope. The Alliance Council has prepared something for you, she said, settling into a chair. Marcus took the envelope with shaking hands. The paper was different this time, not the formal style of her first letter, but something warmer, more personal. What does it say? Elena asked. Marcus read aloud. To Marcus Chen and the people of Earth, you have proven that chaos and order can coexist, that unpredictability can triumph over impossible odds, and that some things are worth dying for. The Hidden Alliance formally invites humanity to join our coalition as full members. He continued reading. Your species has shown us that survival is not about hiding from threats, but about facing them with courage, creativity, and absolute refusal to surrender hope. The galaxy is vast and full of wonders we wish to share with you. The letter concluded with star charts showing the locations of 47 different civilizations, each eager to meet the species that had done the impossible. Will I see you? Again, Marcus asked Kirith, echoing his question from months ago. Kirith laughed, the sound like crystal bells ringing across space. Not just me, she said. All of us. The universe just became much smaller, Marcus Chen, and much more interesting. Outside the medical bay window, ships from dozens of species waited to welcome humanity to the galactic community. Earth had passed its test, proving that sometimes the best way to solve an impossible problem was to refuse to accept that it was impossible. The harvesters were learning about cooperation instead of consumption. The Hidden Alliance was no longer hidden, and humanity had found its place among the stars, not through superior technology or military might, but through the simple refusal to give up hope. Marcus smiled and closed his eyes, listening to the sounds of a universe that would never be the same.